Hi, welcome to the first podcast about general residential single-family construction, coming to you from Rochester Homes. My name's Alex Berlin, and I've got Tyler Anderson, who's my co-host here with me. Today's podcast is going to be kind of a general overview of who we are, why we feel like we have a voice in the industry, and what we're going to be discussing over the course of our podcast. So I want to start off by having Tyler say hi here.
Hello. I'm mainly involved in the operations side of the business, where Alex is, focused more on the marketing, sales side of what we do. My background started all the way from the production line to sets and service, engineering. Now I do general management of the operations side of the business. Overall, I really think there's a lot of value that modular in general can be had. I think it's a good way to build for 90% of residential building.
Okay, Tyler, I'm going to stop you because we got really deep there really quick, which is fine. I want to get there today. But some terms are being thrown out like modular and production line and stuff like that, and I'm not sure that everybody's up to speed with what we do yet. So back up a little bit. We're home builders. I never said that. We're Rochester Homes, obviously. I thought maybe you guys would key in on that. But for all of our listeners, we're home builders. We happen to choose a certain type of construction, which is modular construction, to get our homes out to the end user, to the person that's going to be living in our home. So start again for me, Tyler, with just like why you are in the building industry. How did you get here?
I got here because my grandpa started Rochester Homes in 1972. Mainly building, a single wide, mobile home product. My dad got into the business a few years later and did not like the mobile home mentality and got more into the modular side. As a kid growing up, I grew up around this, and I knew that that's something I've always wanted to do. I've always liked the general concept of what my dad did as far as building homes, and really thought it was a cool idea of a cool process of how things went down the assembly line and got out to the job site and got set on the foundation. So I guess the reason I'm here today is because of what my grandpa started and what my dad has grown and what we've grown over the last several years. So it's definitely an interesting process.
So Tyler and I are in-laws, and so the people that Tyler's talking about, his grandfather would be my grandfather-in-law, his father, my father-in-law, obviously then. So Tyler was, in a sense, raised on a bottle probably that had a Rochester Homes logo on it. Is that the case?
No. Yeah, I remember for my birthday presents, I'd have a crane and I'd pick up Legos with my crane. And I, just because of, going out on the job sites with my dad and seeing what he did all the time is, I've always thought it was a fun thing to be involved in. So, yeah, then Alex obviously got involved in the business. I don't know, when did you get involved?
Well, yeah, so I'll take that opportunity to introduce myself a little bit more. I, in the summers of high school, was on a site-built framing crew. So the industry term for a site builder would be a stick builder, traditional builder, conventional builder. We call them site builders as kind of a nod to the fact that we build with the same sticks, but we do it off-site and they do it on-site.
More efficient. We do it more efficiently.
So you'll hear us say stick builder because we're not totally ingrained with it yet, but we're trying to stick to the term site builder. Anyways, I worked on a site built framing crew. I was the gopher boy. Go pick up the trash, go throw it in the bin, go get me a 2x4 when I didn't know what a 2x4 was. So by no means do I claim to be a framer, but I was on that crew in the summer while I was getting into college. Then I went to university, got a degree in biology with a background in chemistry and physics as well, trying to go to med school. didn't actually want to be a doctor once I was put in the face of a life and death situation. Not my thing, too much of a people person. So I ended up rubbing elbows with this industry, obviously through dating my future wife at the time. And I remember standing on the roof of it was the second story of a 2-story home on the northern side of Indianapolis, and it was a cruddy day out, to say the least. High winds, no sun, rain coming in, and me and some other guys were trying to set up a power beam, and of course, being the lowest guy on the ladder, I got to do the worst job. So in this case, I was the highest man on the ladder. They sent me up on a ladder on the top of this 2-story, and I felt like I was up 1,000,000 feet in the air trying to hold this beam up while other guys were trying to prop it and then get ridges started on it and nail it in, and I'm doing it wrong. People are yelling at me, and then I compare that to the first time I walked into Rochester Homes, and I walked onto the production line and I saw pre-built jigs and scaffolding, and there's no ladders and there's no tools to roll out. And so I was enamored from a different angle than Tyler maybe ever probably got to. I mean, you never got to see it from that light because you were raised with it.
Yeah, no, I've never really been around the site build side of it very much. Always been around the modular side. I've been on the set crew side of it, so I've been exposed to the weather, which is the hard part about building homes, which is why I think our overall industry works well is building homes inside. We get away from the high winds that Alex had to deal with, and we can control 90% of the build right here in the factory. So,
okay, so there's a general introduction to who we are. Tyler mentioned that we're on 2 different sides of the business. We own the business together at this point. We're partners in crime, as it were. Tyler's on the operations side, I'm on the sales side. So we always see perfectly eye to eye, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah. I mean, I think no matter what industry you're in, you're always going to have, the sales and production wall that gets put up just because of efficiencies or whatever. And sales is always going to want to push that line, which I think is healthy at times, but other times not so much.
So you'll never hear any arguing on this show is my goal. That's not true, actually. You're going to hear a lot of back and forth. Tyler and I don't see eye to eye everything, but unlike a lot of people on social media, I feel like have learned to respect each other's opinion even when we don't see eye to eye. So hopefully we'll get into some of that. This industry is monstrous. We're a very small part of it. We're hoping to build about 300 homes this year, and so we don't act like we know everything. Maybe that's probably not true. I act like I know everything.
I think a little bit, yeah. Yeah, depending on the day, I think we both might act like we know everything.
But we'll take this time, and we'll get to a point where hopefully we've got some listeners who are writing into us, and you guys can refer us back to podcast 1 here, and that we don't know everything. We're going to admit that one time and probably one time only. So there you have it. But it's a very large industry. There's a lot of different facets of it. We hope to cover. We hope this isn't a sales pitch, which probably surprises Tyler. I'm seeing a look of surprise on your face because that's my nature. And there's, the building partners we work with are probably shocked if they just heard that coming from my mouth. A couple of our builders probably thought this podcast was to push more model homes on them. Yeah, if I had to guess. But no, our hope is not to be just a commercial for Rochester Homes, although we do believe we do a great thing here. We've got a great team doing that. It's also not just to push modular. So although we'll dig at site builders from time to time, as you've witnessed already, I want this to be a conversation, 2-way and at times 3-way and 4-way. We're going to bring some other voices on the podcast too in the next couple episodes. I want it to be a conversation about things like financing homes in general, general construction issues, general construction ideas, best practices. Some of the conversations that are going on in the industry right now for best practices are energy. That's a huge one. That's a really fun one, I think, to talk about because there's the perfect way to do things, and if you were living in a vacuum and everything was absolutely perfect all the time, here's what would happen, and then there's what really happens out there in the field. So those will be some fun conversations we want to cover. But keep in mind, our knowledge is is fairly Midwest centric.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Less so than like maybe a Midwest site builder would be, because most site builders stick to within a 2-hour radius of their building area, I would think. Whereas our business model is such that we go out to more of like a 500-mile radius. So we get into some plain states. We can get into some eastern areas as well, you know, up to northern Michigan, down to Tennessee right now. So I feel like we've got a decent perspective, but we definitely don't pretend like we know everything about California, Florida building codes, stuff like that.
Yeah, East Coast, West Coast buildings, it's not really in our terminology with all the different building codes that those guys have out there versus the Midwest is, frankly, a little bit simpler building for the most part. You know, a lot of our stuff is mainly all gabled, 612 roof pitches. We get into the 912 and the 1212 stuff. But you'll see out east and out west, you know, you're getting to different wind speed zones, a lot more regulation, flat roofs, more of that modern look, which, you know, I don't know if that'll, you know, be something that's going to be more trendy in the next 10 years in the Midwest or not. But
I hope so. But I also tend to lean towards the modern-ish stuff. Yeah. Modern farmhouse. I'll just go ahead and say modern farmhouse because it's a huge SEO boom. Everybody's into it right now. So there, I said it. And my SEO team will be happy with me now. But, you know, we do have a take on a modern farmhouse model out here. So the point is, I think we'll get into some design talk too on this from time to time. Industry home sales information. We'll try to cover some of that. In a few weeks, Tyler and I are going out to the International Builders Show. That's a lot of fun because we get to see a lot of new products, get to hear a lot about what the conversations are going to be for the rest of 2019 and into 2020 with things like I said earlier, like energy, or another big conversation right now is aging in place, trying to get the millennials into the marketplace, you know, stuff like that. So we're going to try to cover a really broad range of topics here.
So home building products. I mean, but when we go out to the show, I feel like a lot of time Alex is more focused on a lot of the design trends and things like that. I have a tendency, just because of my background, to focus on a lot of more of the engineering stuff. Alex will be more of the cabinet side, the finish side of the show, where I'm typically more on the AutoCAD, MyTech, truss side of it. Just more from a structural standpoint, just because of the background there.
Yeah, but we'll be doing some on-site podcasts. Like right after we get out of the show, we'll head back to the hotel room and let you guys know what we saw. So that'll be kind of fun. So, in 3 words, Tyler, you have to describe me to our listeners. What would you say?
Man, this could get hurtful.
Bring it on.
I'd 3 words. The first one, I'd say very sales driven. Alex has always been good about making sure that the builders get the design trends, what they need on their lot, and then follows up with them to make sure that that is working. And obviously, the last 10 years has showed that it's worked out really, really well for us. Second word here is totally off the top of my head.
We can stop whenever too.
Aggressive, I guess, would be the next one.
I was waiting for that one.
He tends to be extremely aggressive. I mean, Alex definitely believes in what he sells. I think he really believes in the modular concept, and he believes in our overall business model. As far as from an efficiency standpoint, I really think, going out and really selling what we do to the builders is huge, because I think that they see that he believes in what we do. A third word.
That's good. I'll counter. I'll counter, and I'm just trying to give our listeners a viewpoint of who we are and where we're at quickly. But I'll counter because I'm excited about this part of the show, and that's Tyler is more of a realist. He's in operations. He's got to make it happen and put it into practice and then see it get out on site and work for the homeowner. So we have a lot of great conversations because I'll come in with a dream and say, hey, look how cool this new technology is in building. And he'll say, whoa, how's that going to work out in the field? So the beauty to our end users, we've got two different angles to come in and work on products and work on building practices that are going to be both, hopefully leading edge and also actually work.
Yeah, well, I think you have to have that. I think you have to have the dreamer side of it, and that's got to be, somehow that's got to come to life. And there's a happy medium there. And like I said before, that's within any industry. You have to have, the concept, and then from that concept, let's make that really happen. And there's always been that debate between marketing and production. Is it really what is on the brochure? Is that really what shows up at the job site? Or whatever the case might be. It's not just in our industry. So I actually we watched that. We were talking about that documentary we were watching, the fire.
The Fire Island documentary.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of marketing. He marketed this incredible experience of all these bands getting together in an island in the Bahamas, and in all reality, he really had nothing there. But he had all these people buy into it because they saw all of the marketing that he had built into it, the videos that he had. But in all reality, he really sold them nothing. So just because he couldn't make it happen, he had guys out there that he gave them the general idea, but they couldn't make it happen. So it's really no different than what our industry is. You have to always fight that marketing side back and forth. You have to get the sales, but at the same time, somebody's got to make that happen.
Yeah, I would liken that to like where smart home technology is right now in our industry. It all sounds great, and it is great. A lot of it is great. As long as your Wi-Fi is working great that day.
Right.
As long as you don't have as long as you've got a great mesh network on your Wi-Fi, or your service isn't interrupted, or you got the latest update. So you just gotta manage the practicality of it next to the idea that it's gonna be awesome all the time. So
yeah, the commercials will show you walk into the house and your lights automatically turn on, but they don't show you the side where your Wi-Fi shut down and you're frustrated because your lights aren't turned on when you walk in the house.
Yeah.
So
okay, well, enough about us. As much as I like talking about myself, that's hopefully the end of that. Let's do a general overview of what modular is. I'll let you do a general overview of what modular is, and then I'll try to hit what our business model is. How's that sound?
All right, that works.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, modular is essentially a way to build residential code. If you're a site builder, you can technically get into that IRC book, go out and stick frame a home to prescriptive code. What we do is
stop. What's a prescriptive code?
Prescriptive code is a code that is directly out of the code book. So you look at for Indiana, you're going to look at your 2000. It'd be the 2015 IRC is the 2015 International Residential Building Codes. You'd look at those codes, and you could look at that book and just totally stick frame the house from scratch. You'd have to call in inspectors. They would go periodically throughout the time of construction and look at your stick framing. They'll look at your electrical. You look at your plumbing, and make sure that you're actually building per those codes. So we take a combination of prescriptive codes and then engineer drawings, which engineer drawings is anything that's not a prescriptive code, anything that's not out of the book. So it's typically trusses. We have to get uplift calculations, girder beam calculations, things like that go into our product. And get them calculated by a licensed engineer for each state that we build in.
Okay, so you would say, to sum that up a little bit, you would say that prescriptive code is looking at each building item individually in a vacuum. So if my sidewalls, my exterior walls are going to be built alone, I'm going to build them for 90% worst case scenarios, and therefore they've got to be X strong, X spacing, etc.
Correct. Yeah. Within your building codes, so it's like within a prescriptive code, there's charts throughout that book that will show you all the different variables that you have. As long as you're sticking within those variables, you can go out and build that structure without a very specific approval.
Okay, so then engineered would be a look at a house holistically versus looking at each piece in a vacuum. So you're going to look at the exterior walls in addition to the roof, in addition to the foundation, to make sure that you're building a strong enough house, but you're going to do it more specific to that house.
Yeah, in a simplified way. Yeah,
okay.
We'll still use prescriptive stuff like on our floor joists. You know, it's still a prescriptive code. We just use the charts just because it's floor loading only.
Okay.
But you can get really in depth onto load bearing walls versus non load bearing walls, and then all the prescriptive codes behind it. There's about 1,000 charts in that book. But essentially what we do is we build to that international code, which each state adapts a code. So like for instance, Michigan, they're on the 2015, Indiana's on 2009, I believe. So we go out and we'll take these codes and we will make for each individual house, we'll get an approval from the state of Indiana or the state of whatever state we're going to build in, and get it prepared to run down an assembly line. So essentially what we're going to be doing is building a home just like you would a site-built home, but we're going to be building it in components inside of a factory, which allows us to, number one, we don't have to worry about the weather. Number two, we have the ability to buy material in bulk. We have ways of improving our efficiencies. Just in scrap alone, we can save a lot of money for the end user. We have a scrap program, built into the factory that anything that's a cutoff that cutoff piece has to go to something. And our scrap is almost down to nothing. We do have a little bit. I'd say it's under 5% of total.
So compared to a site-built house where you're filling up 2-3 dumpster loads, because we can pre-engineer everything in certain sizes, we're a little bit more efficient with the materials that the homeowner's already paid for. So it's actually getting put in the house, and then of course we're keeping it out of the landfill too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, with all the systems we have and the ability to run volume, we can build these homes in components, run them down an assembly line. The guy that builds a wall, he's just going to build walls all day long. He's going to be really, really good at what he does. Versus a site builder, he's going to, you're going to build your floor system, and then they're going to be, let's switch gears. We're going to start building walls. Is this a non-load bearing wall? Is it a load bearing wall? The guys that don't do it every day, these guys, that's all they do every day is they build floors, they'll build walls, they hang drywall. Everybody specializes in the specific things that they do. That home will run down our assembly line. We'll get it onto our carriers that will ship to the job site, and then we sell to an independent contractor. Which I don't know if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, I'll cover that in a second. I want to. You mentioned that a site-built home gets inspected at certain points. Talk a little bit about how we not circumvent that, but how we supplement that when we're off-site. How is somebody still inspecting to make sure that we're building to the local codes that have been adopted, the local version of the IRC?
So, for instance, we'll use Indiana, for instance. If you're a site builder, like I said before, you would go out, you would get a general building permit, and you could build a prescriptive built home, on site, just based right out of the building codes. What we do, and then throughout that process, you'd have to go out and get, your plumbing, your electrical, Obviously your structural, that all have to be approved by their local, building inspector. So what the states have done is they said, okay, because you're building it in a factory, we can't have a local guy in there to watch that. So there's third-party inspection agencies out there that all the manufacturers use that will come in and they make sure that, your systems, your quality control systems are updated, and then B, that you are building to the approved plans that we send into the states. So essentially, they stand in the gap for your local authority. They make sure that your electrical's right, your plumbing's correct, anything that's done here at the factory. So then on our plans, we'll say, for instance, your plumbing lines, underneath the floor, a lot of times have to be ran on site. So once the house gets set on the foundation, the local authority is responsible for making sure the home is properly installed on the foundation, and that the foundation is installed correct, and then B, any on-site connections are done. So that's kind of the big difference. Is we're essentially the biggest subcontractor, but we'll already have all of that stuff approved by the time that the home gets to your job site.
So I think the world is traditionally, or at least the U.S., is traditionally going to a general contractor, and that's their builder, and they expect that builder to do everything or to subcontract out small pieces of it. And where we get a lot of people confused is they go to Rochester Homes and they think Rochester Homes is the general contractor. We are a subcontractor. The general contractor is the local builder, and this gets into a little bit of our distribution method, our business model. So in order to build homes in a 500-mile radius, we have to have experts on a local level who are there to manage job sites, know specific local codes, be able to go get building permits, be able to know local trades like foundation experts, HVAC experts, etc. Those local guys are what we call our independent authorized builders. They're home builders who have chosen to use modular technology to build their brand of home. So let's say John Smith Homes in Springfield, America, used to be a builder, used to do it all himself, has seen the light, I would say, gets that modular technology, could help him increase his efficiency, build a great product, make more homeowners happy, and increase his productivity. So what he's going to do is he's going to go shopping amongst the manufacturers, and that's a very different word than manufactured in our industry. Manufactured means...
Yeah, I mean, manufacturers just building to a different code. A lot of people, that's part of the problem with our industry in general, is a lot of people look at what we do and they automatically think mobile home because the house is going down the road.
So mobile home, what's the code for it?
The HUD code.
HUD code, Housing and Urban Development. I'm gonna put a placeholder there. I'm gonna finish my first thought, and then I'm gonna come back and talk about those three different codes. So placeholder put. That builder, I'm backing up to that builder, goes and shops manufacturers or companies who have factories that build homes using modular technology, and they're going to choose the best one out there, which is obviously Rochester Homes. And he's going to say, I want to use your product. We're going to train him on our product specifically. We're going to train him on how to set our product. He's going to go through a giant manual of all the ins and outs of our product because we choose to build a certain way. And then he's going to say, I either accept your product holistically or I want to make certain changes to your product on every single order. And I'm going to then work with my end user to design their home based around your specifications and my specifications. We're going to order a home from you. So now again, the general contractor, the local guy, is ordering a piece of your home, or pieces of your home usually, from us, the modular manufacturer or subcontractor. They've chosen to work with us because we think we're the best. They love the way we build specifically. They love the products that are in our homes. We happen to really be a big name brand product using company, because although there's price point stuff out there, we like the warranties that are behind the big name brands. Typically, we like the quality control that they have, etc. So John Smith Builders has chosen to work with us. He's got his local retail customer. They're going to do business with John Smith Builders. We are a subcontractor. That gives us the ability to not go out and have to micromanage site details, construction details on a really granular level across that 500-mile radius we talked about earlier. And it gives us the ability to stay focused on running a production line, building an efficient home, building a quality home all the time, and just building it to those different builder specifications and then shipping it out to the job sites. So I would say that's the number one area where people get confused about who we are and what we do.
Yeah, most people, I've had people that have been confused before that call in and say, "Hey, I live in so-and-so, Illinois, and we built a home through you." Well, in that case, no, you didn't build a home through us. That went through our subcontractor and
general contractor,
and then that general contractor, typically would get involved and handle any of the issues that they may have.
Yeah, so the general contractor, the local independent authorized builder, which we have these guys on our website, you can call into us, whatever, we can help you find them. Or maybe you find them first and they say, "Hey, we use Rochester Homes for these reasons." They're the point of contact for everything. And that really confuses a lot of people because we're typically a bigger company. We have a website that's customer facing. We have sales representatives. We have model homes. But that's the distribution method that allows us to stay focused on building 300 great homes in pieces, shipping it to the general contractor who's really in charge of the whole thing, and then they're going to install the pieces of the home on the foundation as you have designed them, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, and then the general contractor then is going to go ahead and build on porches. Tyler talked about connections earlier. What he meant was porches, garages, flat work, landscaping, etc.
Yeah, or just connections between the modules themselves.
Okay.
There's a lot, especially with a hinge roof system or valley sets that we send. There can be a lot of complexities that go into modular. A lot of people, like I said before, just think, hey, it's two pieces with a pre-pitched roof that you slide together, and that's just not the case. Especially if you're trying to really get to those codes. All the connections to the foundation, depending on what kind of wall system you're using, it can get, fairly in depth.
So general overview of modular, we've pretty much covered.
Yeah, 95% of what is built in the country now and today can be built modular. I really do believe it. There does get to a point where I think you get so far outside the box with some roof designs that it really is best to be site built just because of the complexity level with it. But like I said, 90% of what people can afford would fall into the category of modular. Now, I think there's other, some manufacturers can get to a higher level of customization where some manufacturers are to a way, way lower level of customization and they just focus on volume. Where do you think we are with that?
I want to say we're in the middle, but some competitors of ours have gone by the wayside in the past few years, and we have a very solid footing as a company because we're a 45-year-old company. We know what we've been doing for a long time. So we've taken the opportunity to grow from our solid foundation into a little bit more customization. So I'll probably revise my answer from we're in the middle to we're on the middle to the higher, a little bit higher end of the customization spectrum.
Yeah. No, I'd say you're about right. I do know that we're most efficient when we are running a simpler product through line, obviously, but we do have the right management in place. I really do believe that when we do run a multi-box, 5-6 box 2-story, that we stop long enough and really focus on that product. But then, we've got to make sure that the builder understands, their responsibilities on the job site too. So
yeah, it's the connection between us and our builders is very key in making sure things are right and that the homeowner's happy at the end of the day. It doesn't always go perfectly,
right?
Although I would like it to. And regardless of the fact that it doesn't go perfectly, it still works a lot of the time, and it's still a great way to build.
Yeah, I'd say it works most of the time. It's easy to focus on situations where we have had miscommunication. We'd be lying to you if we said that every deal went perfect, but that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that communication is driven back to the builder, and then on top of that the builder is on their game to make sure that they have all their stuff done on site. And ready for the house, whether it be ready for the shipment or ready for the garage to be built, or whatever the case might be, making sure that all the subcontractors are lined up. That's at the end of the day, that's what makes the customer happy.
Okay, so there's our general introduction episode. A little bit about who I am. A little bit about who Tyler is, who we are within our company, who Rochester Homes is, what modular construction is. Hopefully we've given you a little bit of an overview. We're definitely not going to leave that topic alone throughout the life of this podcast, but we hope we're not just pushing modular all the time. Our goal is to not do that, and definitely not pushing Rochester Homes all the time. We want to, again, have this be an open conversation about a lot of things in this industry. So we'll wrap up there today. Any closing thoughts?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll wrap up there for today.